Good evening, everyone. My name is Connor Moran. I'm the director of the Wisconsin Book Festival. I could not be more delighted to welcome all of you to the first event in our fall schedule featuring Sandra Cisneros for her new novel, Martita, I Remember You. We are also joined tonight by Kali Fajardo-Anstein, who will be our moderator. Kali, thank you so much for being here as well. Sandra, welcome from Mexico. I do want to thank our partners at Literary Arts and the Portland Book Festival for all of their work helping bring this event together. So thank you to everyone at Literary Arts. And I also want to thank our bookselling partners at A Room One's Own. The Wisconsin Book Festival, because of a gift from Cheryl Rosen Weston's estate, will be providing free copies of Martita, I Remember You tonight. They are lovely. It is a dual language edition, absolutely gorgeous. I will put the link underneath the video once I stop speaking here, and you can just click the link and sign up for a free book, and our bookselling partners at A Room One's Own will send those to you. So with that, I'd like to welcome everyone to the beginning of our fall schedule. You can always find out more at wisconsinbookfestival.org. Our fall celebration is coming up October 21st through the 24th, so great events leading up to that and leading out of that. As I said at the beginning, it is my great pleasure to welcome Sandra Cisneros and Kali Fajardo-Anstein to our event tonight. If you don't already know, Kali Fajardo-Anstein is the author of the widely acclaimed Sabrina and Corina, finalist for the National Book Award, and many other prizes, the American Book Award, and many, many more. She is coming out with a novel next year, Women of Light, is that right? Is that the title? Okay. And I highly encourage you to check out her work as well. Kali will be in conversation with Sandra Cisneros. Sandra, thank you for joining us today. Sandra is one of those people who defies description: a poet, short story writer, novelist, essayist, performer, nonprofit founder, artist. Her work explores the lives of the working class. It explores what it is to be human. And tonight's book is absolutely stunning. It is at once both captures the immediacy and the kind of quick intimacy that is youthful friendship. It also captures nostalgia. It captures what it's like to have a dream to go to Europe and to be literary and artistic and interesting and all of those things. I think that is something that many of us can relate to. I'm going to stop talking now and turn it over to the two of you. Thank you so much, and I will see you at the end.
Thank you, Connor. And first, I want to tell everyone out there, I'm talking to you from San Miguel de Allende, where I live, and tomorrow is St. Michael's Day. So if you hear bells or explosions, I don't want you to be frightened for me. It's not the revolution. It's just the celebration for St. Michael's Day. Okay, I got that out of the way.
Okay. Hi, Sandra. It's so good to be here. It's such an honor to speak with you. I am one of your biggest fans. So let me first off.
I'm your fan. Isn't that cool?
That's so crazy because I didn't think I could grow up and write books, and then the person who helped me become a writer through their literature would ever read my book. So
that's all I dreamed about, because I never expected any fame. I was a poet. Who gets famous? Who earns money with poetry? So I always assumed the best I can hope for is the writers I admire the most to blurb me. You know, the blurb is on the back of the book, and that's all I wanted. And it happens. You know, sometimes
it happened to me, and I have to say that I cried when you blurbed my first book, Sabrina and Corina. It was like a cartoon. Like my knees went weak, and I very much cried. So thank you so much. And
it's a good book. But remember what I told you when we met in person? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember.
Too many names. You got Sabrina, Corina. You have Kali, Fajardo, Anstein. You got to change your name.
It's so far it's been working out with just the name the way it is.
I felt that afterwards. I said, what kind of advice is that? Change your name?
It's okay. It made me stronger. But I have to say, I love Martita. I Remember You. And it's such a gift when, an author you love so much and their work has been with you for almost 20 years of my life now, which it was crazy thinking back to. but when an author like you gives us a new book, it's such a moment to rejoice, and it's such a joy. So how has it been to have this new book baby out in the world so
Oh, well,
far?
the crazy thing is, just as this book is appearing, I also had my firstborn, House on Mungo Street, selected for NEA Big Read. So I'm talking about my first book. I'm talking about my newborn with the public. I have to figure out every day, look at my calendar and say, okay, what book am I talking about today?
Wow.
And on top of all that, I just finished a new book of poetry. So a lot is going on.
Oh wow. I'm a big fan of your poetry too. Loose Women, My Wicked Ways. And I watched your Lifetime Achievement Award Zoom from the Chicago Hall of Fame. I loved your talk and that you read. But they mentioned a chapbook. You showed up to a bookstore named Gill Books and you had a chapbook called Bad Boys or something. I think that was the title.
Yeah,
I can't find that anywhere. I don't. Do you have copies?
I had copies. When you moved to San Marcos, Texas State has copies in my archives. Maybe
Okay.
my family has, maybe the last 6 copies on earth. No, that's not true. You can maybe find it. It was published by poets Gary Soto and Lorna D. Cervantes out of their own money and their own labor. They did a whole Chicano chapbook series and published a lot of us, including John Olivares Espinosa and myself, some other writers. And, that was my first book. 500 copies, little paper, 6 poems. Gary told me that the stapler didn't work and they had to use a spoon to make the staples go down. He was working on the table with a little spoon. So that's how Rasquache. But like they took a chance on me. It was so great. She likes to remind me, yeah, I published you, but she forgets to mention that she lost the manuscript.
Oh my gosh! What happened?
Well, Gary Soto found it like a year later. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I will go find one immediately.
Well, I don't know if you'll find it immediately, but you can go to Southwest Texas State University, the Whitliff Collection Archives, and they have copies. Okay.
Wonderful. So I want to talk about Martita. I love it so much. Where did the initial spark come from? How did this book come into the being it is?
Yes. Well, this is an old story, actually. This story is an old circa Woman Hollering Creek story that didn't make it into that collection. That collection, if you know, my first collection of short stories was set in Mexico and in the Southwest. So of course, this one set in Paris didn't exactly fit in. Also, it wasn't finished. It was only the first third of it. And both my editor and my agent dissuaded me from keeping it in the collection. It just thematically didn't fit. It wasn't done. And I love this story. It's like one of my favorite, it is my favorite one. And I said, okay, well, I'll get back to it and finish it. But I had other things to write. Life happens. I had to start foundations. I had, people come in and out of my life and, the passages of life that happen. And I never was able to get back to the story. It's one, as I said, that I've treasured. And I finally took it out of storage and started writing, rewriting, filling in the gaps and redoing it so that it was complete. And I think I needed the Sleeping Beauty time because I couldn't come up with this ending when I was writing it originally. I guess I was in my mid-30s and I'm 66 going on 67 now. I needed to have lived a life.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because I've dusted off things from 10 years ago and I've been able to find the voice again. Did you, when you got back into it, did you start a new voice for Corina, or was it you just found her again?
I did rework the first part. And I remember sometimes my close friend, who's my personal editor, would say, she wouldn't say that, he would jump on me. And he wasn't always happy with some of the tweaks, the little changes I made, but I was happy with it. And finally, I found that the voices came back to me, that I hadn't forgotten who they were. And I had a perspective that I didn't have at 35. It was necessary to write the conclusion.
Yeah, and it's so sweet, and it actually made me sort of sad. I mean, I read it twice, and each time I was filled with emotion. That's why I love your work so much, I think, is because it transfers my body into a new emotional state while I'm reading.
That's what I want.
Yeah, that's the that's the magic. So I also, while I was reading, I was reminded of how beautiful your language is. And this is sort of funny, but a friend of mine is a poet from Chicago. His name is Keith S. Wilson. And he knows I'm just such a big fan of yours. And he wrote me recently and he said, "Hey, I gave House on Mango Street a try. You were right. That book's awesome." And he's like, "If I didn't know any better, I would think she was a poet." And I said, "She is a poet." And then he, of course, he went and researched more and he realized that, yeah, you started out as a poet. Can you talk about that a little bit? And I mean, you do everything. You do poems, short stories, novels, novellas.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the forms?
When I started as an artist, I always tell people I started as a child who couldn't read or write and who drew pictures. And that's how we all start, making little circles and little sticks. And, and we're all artists, but why do we stop? That's the question Picasso asked. Everyone begins as an artist. Why do they stop? I blame our education or miseducation, because I feel I still draw, and I feel that the way that I draw is how I write. The things that I look at and the details I'm paying attention to. And all the friends I have who are amazing writers like Joy Harjo or my friend John Philip Santos, they can draw or they can play the saxophone or sing, or, they have multiple things that they do that are just coming from the same sensibility. And I think that I always had this vision and sensibilidad in the sense of sensitivity since childhood. But when I got to graduate school, I had to choose. It was like you had to declare your citizenship, poetry or fiction. You couldn't have a dual citizenship. You had to be one or the other. And I really did both, but I didn't study with a fiction writer. So I had no training as a fiction. I've never studied fiction. I only studied with poets. So I felt desconfiada. I didn't have a lot of confidence. And so I said, oh, okay, I've got all these poems I've reworked. I'll apply for the poetry workshop. Of course, I wrote fiction while I was in the poetry workshop, and that became House on Mango Street. Even though it wasn't part of my thesis, it's what kept me alive when I was in graduate school. So I've always felt comfortable, doing both. And then lately I've been venturing doing other things. Like I wrote essays. I didn't know that's what I was doing. I was just write down my lecture that maybe I had to speak in front of an audience, so I'd write it down and put them all together. And what do you know? And now I'm working on libretto for House on Mango Street, the opera, with Derek Vermel. And at first I thought I needed to work with a librettist, but a poet who writes librettos told me, no, it's just poetry. So I said, oh, I know how to do that. So I just feel like I hope I can keep growing, and that I'll keep going, and that I can add other things to my bio note.
Well, I'm really excited for your opera. I just went to the Santa Fe Opera for the first time like a couple years ago, and I cried and cried. I didn't know what was going on at all, but it was so overwhelmingly beautiful. So the moment the House on Mango Street opera comes out, I'm going to be there.
Oh, yes, yay. Well, first, if there's anyone out there that would like to invest and donate some money to help us create the opera, that's going to be the key point. But right now we have the wonderful Derek Vermel. You could Google Derek, Bermel, and put Mango Street Suite, and you'll hear a beautiful soprano singing House of My Own, I think. And it makes you cry.
Okay, I can't.
Cry, and I wrote it, so you know.
I know that's a weird feeling when your own writing makes you cry, but I think that's kind of
The
the
only
point.
way you know it's going to be any good. You know, when I write, I cry, I laugh, right? Don't you?
Yeah, I do, and I think that's why. I mean, your work was one of the works that like showed me like you can be funny. I mean, even in this book that's so filled with nostalgia and all this atmosphere of a Paris. I've never been to Paris, so this was my big opportunity to travel to Paris. But they're going through every range of human emotion, and I really love the life stage that Corina is at. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. It reminded me, I wanted to be a writer since I was a little girl, and I desperately wanted to become a published writer and to be taken seriously. And it took a little bit longer than I would have hoped. It didn't happen until I was in my 30s. So I spent a lot of my 20s like Corina, and I moved all over the United States from like Key West. I was living in these packed bars, and I lived in San Diego. And I remember being embarrassed at one point in San Diego. Somebody asked why I was there, and I said I was studying fiction and that I was going to be a writer. And it was really hard for me to say that. And somebody else said, "Why would that be hard for you to say?" And I was like, "Well, because it's who do I know that's a professional writer?"
And how do we
And
know that we have become that writer, right? It's always like what rite of passage allows us to say it without laughing, you know, that I am a writer. It takes
yeah,
some guts. It takes some guts, especially in our society, because people don't know what to say when you tell them that.
yeah. And I think Corina, for me, like if this book is so meaningful to me now because I remember the woman I was then. But if I had this at that point, I would have been like, well, that doesn't even matter because look, she's going through the same struggle. So do you remember it like it was yesterday? Like that.
Well, you know what? This is the thing I always say. I write about the things you wish you could forget. So that's why I write so accurately about certain things. I want to forget them and I can't, they plague me. But I just realized the title of your book, your first book, is
Yes, Sabrina and Corina.
So you have a Corina too.
Yeah.
We both have a Corina.
Yeah, I know. I was really excited about that. But her nickname is not.
Well, see, the reason why she's Corina is she has a nickname. And she has a nickname, and they've named her after the little blue Smurf characters in Italy. They're called Poofies, not Smurf. And they're Smurfs, but they have they speak Italian and they have a different name. And in real life, I was 28, 29 on my NEA, first NEA that allowed me to finish House on Mungo Street. And I was traveling after I had finished the book, and I would meet women, and I was meeting a lot of younger women at that point, you know, women in 20, 21, 19. And, you know, you meet them on the train and hang with them. And I remember they taught me the Poofy song, which is based on the Smurfs. And for some reason, I recorded it in my notebook. So I have it written down. And I don't know if I'm allowed to sing it because we didn't get permission. We can never find the songwriter. But it goes like,
really? Okay,
no,
go ahead.
but if I get arrested, come get me. It goes, Feliciano, no lo so, no, da, 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 I don't remember all the words now. Da, da, well, it's in my book. Da, 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 no, da, 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 da. And her name, I had to find a name that rhymed with Pufina. They start making Pufina. And I thought, well, they have to name her Pufina because it sounds like Corina.
Corina. Oh, I love that. I actually was going to ask you because at one point, I think it's Corina or Martita, one of them is described as having a rooster earring. I said, how does she have a detail like that? Do you have photographs? Is this in your notebook?
Because I bought those cheesy earrings in Florence on the bridge. Everybody did at that time. We were all like buying things from hippies that were spreading their blankets on the bridge in Firenze. You'd buy a feather earring and, you know, and then you'd wear your scarf the way the French do. And you tried to look very with it and very boho, you know, I was trying to like fit in.
Yeah. All these details, and then there's the scene where the father has the tacks in his mouth, And then and I remember my father walking around with nails in his mouth. There was things that you just don't even, you take for granted what's happening in the world all around you in the universe at all times. There's just these beautiful moments. And there's just so many in this book.
You know, I forgot that I had written about my father so intimately in this book, because the book that's about my father is the novel Caramelo. But this story precedes Caramelo, and I paid attention to his shop. He had an upholstery shop, a little storefront, and all of the tools of his trade and the things that he did are sketched so accurately in this story, and makes me very happy to see it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Was there, so I also,
The sun is setting. Do I need to, if it gets dark here, I'll have to put this light up brighter. You let me know, okay?
Okay, I'll let you know. Right now you look,
because the sun is setting and I don't want to be in the dark.
You look great. So right now you're very bright.
All right, good.
Can we talk about the letters?
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about the letters. Okay. First of all, I love all the different fonts. So I don't know if you can see, there are all these different beautiful fonts for the letters. Did you pick those? I know that's we'll get into a better question.
Yeah, I did request and that they be different, that one should be curly for Martita. And we didn't actually get the right font for Paola, maybe in another edition, because Paola's printing on postcards. She doesn't want to write too much because she doesn't want to talk about her life. She's the slippery one that kind of dodges. She doesn't lie to her friends, but she doesn't tell them everything, you know.
Yeah.
So they used a typewriter font, which by the time I realized that was too late to change it on the galleys, we'd gone through first pass. And but it doesn't matter. It distinguishes different voices. And for those people out there who like to listen to their stories, let me tell you, the Audible on this one is great, because I did the audiobook myself in Spanish and English. And then two actors helped me to do the letter portions. I wasn't able to get them to do every single moment when they spoke, but in the letter portion, there's two actors, so you can hear the different voices. And it made it feel like a radio drama. I really loved it. And I still think this story is perfect for theater. It's just about
like a stage performance. Oh, I can't wait to hear. I haven't heard you. Have you done an audiobook before? Do you do your audiobooks?
I do all my audiobooks, but I've never done them in Spanish. And this is the first time, and it was very challenging for me. I practice.
Oh, how exciting. So with letters, do you write a lot of letters? Is that something that's part of your practice?
You know, when you go look at my archives, Callie, you'll see all the letters I wrote, and I feel it's a lost art. This book is reminding me how much I miss writing letters to people, especially to my friends who are writers and write beautiful letters. We don't bother each other. You know, my closest friends and I, sometimes I don't hear from them for years because they're busy. And I always say that, and you will understand this, that writing is like being a coal miner. You know, you go over there and you're like, you don't know what's going on in Afghanistan. You don't know what's going on in the border. You come up and like, what happened? I miss what? You know, an earthquake. You know, he's like, I remember that when 9/11 happened, it was like that too. Somebody had to call me and wake me up because I was working really late hours. And I woke up and my friend said, "Wake up, our nation's under attack." I thought that was a little bit dramatic. I thought, what? And it was like that. I was writing Caramelo.
Yeah.
And I feel sometimes when we're working the way that we do, we lose contact with reality, and we're living in this other alternative universe. Don't you feel that way with your characters? You know, and so I don't write emails to my friends because I know they're concentrating. And then you stop writing real letters, and especially now that I live in Mexico, because it takes too long for me to get them to the United States and too expensive. But I think we need to write letters when someone has a loss, when they're battling an illness, when we thank someone, and when we want to tell someone we love them. I don't think we should do it in a text or in an email, or when we break up with them. Not naming names, but you know who you are. Not do it on a text or an email. It's so cheesy, and I will get back to you one day, but never mind. The thing is, when we write a letter, it's like you're sitting and honoring that person and listening to them and looking them in the eye and sending them light. And I just don't think it, a lot of things get misunderstood through social media. And I have to say, there's a shadow to social media. There's the great thing of organizing people when there's injustice at a moment's notice, but there's also the predilection to release words when we're angry and we haven't had time to translate them to something that our receiver will hear. And it's created a lot of polarity in the world right now. And I'm very sad about that. I follow a lot of what Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk, says. And it's just not, I think he calls it right language or right communication. We don't do that on social media. And with a letter, especially if you're sending it, even someone you don't agree with, you take your time, you rewrite it. You don't press send. If it's rude, you scratch it out and you do another hoja, another page. And I think that's shows some respect to your receiver. So that's what I have to say about it.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. It reminded me when I was in graduate school, I won a grant. I was awarded a grant to go on a research road trip by myself in New Mexico. And it was a lot of money. It was like a few $1,000s, and no one had ever given me a few $1,000s before. And so I wrote a letter to the family that gave me the grant. And then when they were presenting us with the grants in person in front of everybody, she said, "I want you to know that she wrote a letter and that all of you should do that." And she kind of she pointed at everybody else. I felt really bad, but
no, you were raised right. You were raised, your mother and your father raised you right. Because, that's the thing. When I was younger, there are a lot of people that wrote blurbs for me, and I didn't know what to do. I never thanked them when I should have. There were people that wrote, did interviews like you are doing with me, promoting my books for newspapers or television shows. I didn't know any better and didn't thank them. And so now at these heights of being 66, I thank people 2 times. If in doubt, thank people twice. You can never thank people enough. And I think, I hope I'm educating younger people out there, nieces and nephews. I hope you're listening. If your aunt is a writer, an e-thanks does not count. A text, forget about it.
Well, this is very good to know. We have to send you letters. We'll do that.
Yeah, and you know what? I write letters. I have a website, and I write letters to every single person who writes to me. The people that write to me on paper, I write to on paper. The one who writes to me on my website, I write and answer every single note. It may not get to you right away, but at least within a month or 2.
Oh, that's so wonderful. That's why we love you. Do you want to read a little bit now?
Oh, you were saying you wanted me to read. I'm going to put on my glasses and not stare too much because I've got a circle light and it kind of glares at my lens, but I will do my best. It's getting darker and darker in here. All right. Bravo, Martita. We're so proud of your French. You talking to your mama from the broken payphone that lets us all call home for free. Every Latin American in Paris lined up and waiting to say, Prospero Año Nuevo, bonne nuit, I miss you, please don't cry. Merci beaucoup, te quiero mucho, bonsoir, it's cold, cold. We wait our turn and watch you show off your bird whistle French to your mama in Buenos Aires. Bonjour, Madame Quiroga. That pretty profile of yours, half of an algebraic parentheses. Bonjour, Madame. Martita chirping like a native. Paula has a little snippet of a nose too, like yours, but she had to pay for hers. What do you think Paula looked like before? I don't know. I didn't know Paula with her old nose. Paula, Martita, and me walking down the Champs-Élysées, arm in arm, the way women walk together in Latin America, to tell men, we are good girls. Stay away. Leave us the hell alone. Corina, sing the Buffy song, Paula commands. Per favore. But you know it better than I do, I say. I don't even know what I'm singing. Please, Corina, sing, Marta says. And I sing the song Paula taught me as if I am her trained parrot, without understanding the words, and with the ones I do know all crooked and in the wrong place. It makes Paula laugh to hear me sing that cartoon jingle. And now, because I sing it on command, she insists on calling me Pufina instead of Corina. She says I'm tiny, like the Poofy characters, the height of 2 apples. Okay, ahí está.
Beautiful. Yay! Thank you so much. I love your readings. I selfishly wanted to hear you read.
I love reading this book. And you know, when I did it on the tape, I had to do all the characters. I had to be the father who said, Corina, ya vendo a tu casa. And then I had to be the slimy puppeteers. Don't you want to be my lover? All these characters, and I had to put my hand, because my instrument is not a cello, come on, but I had to put my hand on like different parts of my body to remember, you know, father from here, Corina from, my own speaking voice, Martita down from the belly, Paula from someplace shouting like that, so I had to do all these, and then I had to be Richard, and I don't have an instrument that loans itself, so I had to do pacing and just like placing the hand on the body to remember where the air should come from. It was very challenging. And then I had to speak French on top of that, and I don't speak.
Wow. And did you record the audiobook in Mexico?
Yes, I did.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of musicians here in San Miguel, and so there's a professional studio here, and I went to a professional studio and taped it over 2 days. Then I had to go back to do the pickups, and the pickups are not someone who buys your drink. The pickups go back to the studio, and they say, hey, you swallowed this syllable. Can you reread this line? Yeah, like that.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, the first time I saw you read, you came to my college campus.
Where?
In Denver, Metropolitan State.
Yes.
Yeah, and so afterward, that's the first time I ever met you, was at your signing table. But I remember you read from 11, and just to see that I was able to use my voice and use my body when I read, because I had been coming from this world where no one read like that. But my mom is a professional storyteller. So
she is?
Yeah, she would perform all throughout my childhood and use voices. What'd you say?
Does she train you?
Yeah. I mean, by growing up with her. Yeah. I did theater. I did teatro. I did community Chicano theater as a child, and I wrote a monologue. I performed it, and I noticed I wasn't very popular when I was in high school. I was like a very goth, depressed person who read books like yours all day, and I didn't have really any friends. But I remember I read a monologue for drama class, and all the popular cheerleaders, their moms came. They were crying by the end of my monologue, and I said, I think I got something here. But I channeled that all into writing. So I just want to thank you.
What it is, if you were a theater person, theater people are not very popular in high school.
I wasn't a theater. I was just a book person. I just loved books. So I was just reading a lone person. That's what I did.
I think that's the thing. When as writers, we begin writing because we're not comfortable with people. We're really more comfortable inside the pages of a book that takes us away from our environment. We want to escape. And the way we do it is through paper. Through the pages of the book, and then eventually through writing. But what happens if you become a successful writer, you're basically an introvert. and you're not great with people. If you become a successful writer because of the book biz, you're obliged to be a performer and, to go out there and meet hundreds of people and to teach and to almost to be a minister, to speak. And that's all the kinds of things that I have to do. And I was the shyest little girl in the classroom. So I'm still shy inside, although I fool everybody.
Yeah, that's how I feel a little bit. And one thing I wanted to tell you is that I come from a family of 7 children, but unlike you, I had 6 sisters.
Oh my
And
God.
so I always thought that was so interesting about your upbringing, that there were 7 of you, right? But only one was a woman. In my family, we have one brother.
Oh my God.
So it was just
like horrified at all the things he saw, right?
I guess. I don't know. He was off like playing hockey in the streets or something. He wasn't around.
Oh my God. I don't even know what that is. I have to talk to your brother one day.
Yeah. But it's just like the amount of life in these big families. So I also really appreciated that. One of my favorite scenes in here is when Corina is remembering her family back home. She's imagining her family in Chicago making tamales for Christmas. And it was just so, I was just like, oh, it's like, I'm right now, I'm in New England on a writer's retreat. But I was like, oh, I'm actually at home in Colorado with my family in the kitchen when I got to that section. So
yes, because, making tamales is a big, it takes a village to make a tamal, really. It takes a village. People don't realize that. That's why they only make it once a year. It's just so much work. And you have to get all hands on deck. I'm pleased that Chicago came up in this book the way that it did, because Corina's from Chicago, as I was. So it began from an autobiographical place, as all my work does, and then it just kind of takes off. And it isn't my story anymore by the end. It isn't my character, but in a way, I'm Martita and I'm Paola and I'm Corina. I'm all of these women. Even though I gathered so many strands of stories, real stories that women shared with me when I was traveling from Italy and France and from former Yugoslavia, and from American women I would meet, and in Greece. I just gathered and put them all together in these 3 voices.
That's incredible. I mean, do you feel like women, when I was living alone in San Diego or Florida, I would just meet women sometimes. Like one day I signed up for a domestic violence walk, and I walked all day long. And then afterward, I went to the after party and I became friends with this woman for just one night. And she just told me so many stories. And then, she, at the end of the night, she took all of the calamari, she scooped it into this to-go box, and then she walked off in her backpack filled with calamari. And I said, oh, she's got it figured out. But I never heard from her again. But I always remember her.
Yeah, I feel that as story writers, we're essentially story listeners, aren't we? That for some reason people trust us. Maybe we listen with integrity and empathy, I hope, and compassion. And that's why people, I don't know about you, but even when I meet people in my signing lines, they tell me things they should be telling, their curandera or their therapist or their priest. They're telling me. And it's like a big responsibility. What do we do with those stories that people give us? And sometimes you only meet them for one night, like your calamari lady. And those stories.
Yeah. Do you feel, so these are your stories, but you knew women like this and you imagined their lives, these kinds of.
Yeah. Some of them are like, I realized when I finished, because, I began with a real Martita and a woman. It's kind of a, the Paola's based on several people put together. But then as I finished, I thought, oh my God, these are people that I know in my life now. And there's some that I met on a train, and some that have been friends with me since this trip, and some I've lost contact with. And I started counting them, and it was like about 10.
Wow.
I thought, well, how wonderful when you have no money and you're homeless and you're an immigrant in a new country, when someone gives you like a place to sleep, how grateful you are.
Mhm.
Right now I'm reading some Javier Zamora's Solito. He's the poet, Jose Javier Zamora, who wrote the book Unaccompanied, about coming to this country as a migrant child. And now he's writing a memoir, which I'm reading now because I have to blurb it. I want to blurb it, I should say. And you think about, well, I was 28. Maybe I didn't have much money, but I had an education. I could have gone home at any point. But traveling like that, when you have little money and people you meet who have less money than you and they give you everything, they may not have much, just a little canoe bed, but they share it with you. And reading Javier's book about, migrating as a child and coming to the United States and the awful things and the wonderful things that happen. We forget that humanity is so horrible, but they're also people being God also. And that keeps me going, especially now when we realize, this is a story that takes place in the 80s, but when I was living it, it made me understand the situation of migrants, whether they were migrating to France or to the southwest border, or like what's going on right now with Haiti. So I hope people will make that connection when they read this story. I know I did when I lived it. It made me very, very sensitive about the generosity of strangers, the kindness of strangers, as Tennessee Williams would put it.
Yeah. And I'm really excited for Javier's memoir. I've been hearing a lot about it. Yeah. What did you say?
Do you know him?
Yeah, he and I went out in Texas after the Texas Book Festival with a big group of people. And so I got to meet him there. I guess everybody meets in Texas for some reason. That's where we all
meet everybody in Texas.
That's where I met everybody. It was in Texas. No one comes to see me in Colorado. Well, you came to Colorado.
You know what? If you find that you're not invited to anyone's team, make your own. That's what I did in San Antonio, and that became a condo. I never got invited to the other baseball team, so I said, I'll make my own.
That's a good idea.
Invite, come.
Okay. We're getting in some questions now from the audience. We have one from Lisa. What is it like to live in San Miguel de Allende? There's two parts. Any future works that depict characters from that part of Mexico?
Yes. I live here and I write about things here in my new book of poetry. The book of poetry will be out next fall. It's called Woman Without Shame. And there are a lot of poems about Mexico and things that I witness. I think it's curious living in San Miguel because it would be the equivalent of saying, oh, I'm moving to the United States. I'm going to pick a typical US city. I choose Santa Fe, New Mexico. And everybody will laugh and say, well, that's not a typical US city. Well, that's what they say about San Miguel. It's not a typical Mexican town. It's very cosmopolitan. We have people here from all over the world. And, so it's kind of like a little mini Times Square. You can go to the Jardín, the Zócalo, the square, and run into people from all over the world. So I like that because I grew up in a cosmopolitan city, but I don't like big cities. So I like having the arts, the artists, languages, the international vision in a town where you can walk across it.
Nice. Another question is, do you have a favorite place to write poetry?
Yeah, I like writing everything in bed. Ever since the pandemic, I used to work here. I'm in my dining room here, but somehow the pandemic made Command Central upstairs in my bedroom. I just started having meals there, and it's my doggy park. It's my dormitory. It's my desk. It's where I fold the laundry. It's like everything happens there. It's a TV night. And I still like writing up there better than down here. I mean, sometimes I have to be down here when I have to do, mind-boggling stuff like organizing the receipts. But if I want to create, I like to go upstairs, and it's just like I'm this giant oyster shell, and I'm just this little pearl. I feel very happy working in my bedroom.
Aw, I love that. And that question was from Genovia. This question is from Maria. How do you stay motivated in your craft?
Well, the way I get motivated is I read writers I really love. And I read women, especially over 60, who have written their best works when they're over 60. And I just say, oh, I want to write a book like that. And I named some of those women. If you go to buy the book, the New York Times Book Review a couple of weeks ago, I named some of those writers in depth on the online questionnaire. And I just feel reading the writers that I admire the most makes me feel like I have to hurry up because I don't have a lot of time left before my Uber ride comes for me. I gotta hurry up and I gotta get better, so every book I want to be better than the last one.
I'm really excited about the poetry collection. So this is just me asking a question right now. When does it come out exactly?
I think it comes out next September.
Oh, okay, September. So you're having a books 1 year apart. You're like, they'll be.
But see, the real thing is people think I work on only one thing at a time. I work on many things at the same time. And it just so happened, like these poems some of them are like 20, 25, 30 years old. And some of them I just finished this summer.
Oh, wow. There's a poem of yours in Freeman's, that John Freeman's journal. I love, you have a long poem in there that I really love. Is that in the collection?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. Okay. This question is from Amanda. What is your favorite comfort food?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. If you follow me on Instagram, sometimes I put food and I get so many responses from the comelonas that follow me, comfort food. Oh man, I like Southern comfort food, like, mashed potatoes, and I like turkey and corn biscuits. And I love when I go to the South and get like, when I used to go to Texas and go to Luby's and get mac and cheese, all that bad stuff. But like my comfort food, because I'm from Chicago, would be like a hot dog, a Chicago hot dog. And here in Mexico, I just want a bowl of arroz and frijoles. That just makes me so happy. Arroz and frijoles every day. You can't go wrong.
Mm.
Oh, sopa de fideo.
Okay, hold on. We have one question from Michelle. Michelle would like to know, so her students are reading House on Mango Street right now, and she would like to know what happens to Esperanza at the end of the book, or when it's closed, or if you have any theories that she can share with her students.
Yeah, well, people want to know what happened to Esperanza, but Esperanza's you. So you have to start thinking, how did this book change me and what am I going to do? You are Esperanza. So I have to ask, what did you do? Did you go back to Mango Street, and how did you make it better? Are you waiting for the mayor to fix it? Or what are you doing? Are you organizing people out there to think about the global warming? What are you doing about the situation on the border? How are you making your community better? Are you the solution? Are you part of the problem? So that's what the book's about, that it's about your house and your Mango Street and your issue. And so I need to ask you, what are you doing to solve the dilemmas we have in 2021?
Okay, I got another question for you. Do you write on a computer or do you write longhand?
I do both, but I like to travel with a little notebook, just a little composition book. I don't like anything too fancy. Just I usually write longhand and then I transfer it to the computer. I do both. I think when I'm writing fiction, I try to write in the computer, and I think when I write poetry, I like doing longhand.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Okay. Hannah, we have 2 more questions from the audience, and then I think we'll be out of time.
Okay.
Okay. What years were you in Iowa City?
I was there 76 to 78.
Okay, 76, 78. And did you ever go to the Chicano house?
Yes, I did. And Joy Harjo took me there, actually. Joy and I were in the same class. So, uh, we met each other very early on. I can't remember how we met, but
Oh, I didn't realize you're in the same class.
yeah, we were in the same class, and we were in the same class with Rita Dub too, but Rita Dub was 1 year ahead of us. So I
Oh,
really
wow.
didn't know Rita. I think Joy did. I hung around with Joy, and she took me to the Chicano Native American house.
Oh, wow.
We've been friends
Can you
ever since.
can you tell those of us who don't know what that is? Like, I imagine it's a cool center. Could you tell us about what it was?
I don't remember very much because I was
Okay.
I was in graduate school. You know, when you're in
Oh,
graduate
okay.
school writing your thesis, it's like writing a novel.
Yeah, I
And
wasn't really with
I
it.
didn't go out very much, so I wasn't very social. I did things a lot by myself. Like I would go to the art museum and look at a drawing for hours. I would go to a movie, but I wasn't like hanging with the group because I had to listen to everything that was going on in my head. And when you're a writer, you need to spend inordinate amount of time by yourself. It's like being
Yeah.
a nun in a convent. You don't
Yeah.
have time to socialize.
Yeah. Okay. Of your characters, of all the characters you've written, do you have some that you identify more with than others? And who are they?
Oh, I think I would have to, well, I'm always in love with my newest book, so right now it's like this one.
This
My
one.
baby. This is the one I love very much, even though, like I said, she says things and does things and ends up in places I didn't go. She lives a different life than me, but identify very much because, I realized when I was reading the book and taping it for the audio, she's an inocente. And then I thought, oh my God, I'm an inocente too. I didn't realize that, innocence isn't something you lose with age. You could be 66 and an inocente, like me. Maybe that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm like some little lamb, they'll say, here, come this way, honey. I'll say, where? And I'll go.
I was having dinner alone recently, and this couple around my parents' age, they took pity upon me because they saw me just sitting there reading Willa Cather by myself, and they secretly paid my bill. But one of the things I overheard them tell the waitress was, we may not look like it, but once we were your age. And he said, we just woke up one day and we were this age. And I just looked up and I looked at them and I said, oh, that's gonna happen because it's going so quick. And this book, it really captures that feeling. I mean, I've only lived 34 years, but it's speeding up for me. And when you get to the end of this, it's just like a blink, but so much life has been experienced in the pages. I mean, it's a really beautifully crafted work. And what you do with the letters too, I thought was just really brilliant.
Thank you. Coming from another writer and a good writer at that, thank you so much. I'm very honored that we're speaking today because when I saw you last time, it was very, very rushed. And one appreciates the recognition of craft from another craftsperson. So thank you.
Of course. I think you're one of our greatest craftsmen, if you're a craftswoman.
I work so hard. I do. I redo and I work like if I was chiseling the Hope Diamond. I spend a lot of time and value the work I'm doing. I think my father taught me that. He would always look at sit, before he put his butt in a chair, he would look at it and evaluate how it was made.
Oh, wow.
And he always, was like, very critical and took a lot of pride in what the chairs he made, the sofas he made. And I think, there's something of that pride. I want to instill in younger writers. You don't put your name on something that's half finished. The difference between a good piece of writing and great is time.
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And I think, I mean, that's something that's overlooked for a lot of writers is craft. And, when I read your work, I just think, God, that sentence is like water. You could just drink it. It's so clean. But I can tell like how much you labor behind them. And what a real, and it's just, thank you so much for the relationship you have with your work like that, because then we all get to experience that relationship.
But if you read a lot, then you're going to want to write like your favorite writers. And I'm always, the writing I want to write is just a little bit out of reach. It's always like, yeah, I'm gonna get it the next one. This is great. I'm happy with what I did. But I want to get a little bit further. I'm just, that far away from what I want. I'll get it next time.
We only have a few more minutes left, but I want to ask about the translation between, because you didn't write it in Spanish, right? You wrote it in English, and then you
can flip it over and read it in Spanish. Liliana Valenzuela is a poet primarily. She writes prose also, but she's primarily a poet. And we've known each other over 30 years. And she started translating my work back in the Woman Hollering Creek days. She didn't translate Manga Street, but she translated from Woman Hollering Creek on. And so we work really well together. And like I told Lily, she did a great job, because what she did is, I hear Martita speaking Spanish. So she poured my words back into the way I hear Martita speaking. And the book has always been Martita te recuerdo. Even now, when I talk about it, it's Martita te recuerdo. I was forced to translate it into English by my editor talking me into that, and I said, oh, okay, I'll find an English title. And then I just translated it. But in my head, it's Martita te recuerdo, which sounds so beautiful, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It has a different emotion than Martita, I remember you. Martita, I remember you is like, it doesn't have the ternura.
Yeah.
Ternura.
Yeah. And also for a Chicana like me, who's the last generation to speak Spanish with my grandparents, this is really helpful. So I can go and I can practice, and all I have to do is flip over the book. And like, that's not very often that you have a tool like that right there with you. So I also want to thank you for people like me.
Because, it's helping me that lives between two countries. I live here in Mexico, but I'm a dual citizen of the United States and Mexico. And it helps me because I can give it to my friends here in Mexico. I can share it with people who only speak English, and people who only speak Spanish, and people like you who want to learn both, whether they're learning English or learning Spanish. It's a nice bridge.
Yeah. Well, Sandra, it has been such a great honor.
Ready?
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, and I never thought I'd grow up to become a writer and I'd get to talk to you on a Zoom. So thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Well, next time when we hang out, I hope we intersect and spend more time, because last time I saw you, I felt really bad. I was with my entourage, because every time I come back to San Antonio, it's an entourage of people that haven't seen me, but next time it'll just be us.
That'd be wonderful. That'd be wonderful. I'm so looking forward to your new book of poems and
your new novel, Woman of Light.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get that advanced copy.
I'm gonna get one to give to somebody to give to you, and also just everyone go get the. Oh wait, there might be some free copies for you, but also go get this for everybody in your family. Copies.
I want to thank Cheryl. I think her name was Cheryl, who gave the gift to give books away. I think that's what we can do these days. Like if you get frustrated like me and you watch the news and you think so much inhumanity, I'm going mad. What can you do? You can buy somebody a book. You can read to someone you love. You can read to a child. I think this is a peaceful and a way to, I think the planet gets tilted when we're inhumane, and when we do something kind, it's like we help nudge it back into its place. So I want to thank you, Cheryl, and I want to thank the Wisconsin Book Fair and Portland. I always have a wonderful time. I have great memories of Wisconsin last time I was there, and Portland last time I was there. I hope that we can be kind to one another and not wait around for our politicians to do something. We can do great things every day. And Connor is one of those people doing great things. Thank you.
Oh, I'm just here with the microphone. You did all the great things tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kali, for all of your thoughtful questions. There are still copies of the book, so if you haven't signed up, please click the link just below the video. And we are happy to put those books in people's hands. I'm so eager to go back and watch this as a viewer rather than be working while it goes on. There are so many things in the chat that I wish that I could bring to you, but I'm going to paraphrase just one of the comments that came a little bit right in the middle, and it said, to be able to witness the joy and expertise of these two wonderful women is a true pleasure, and it absolutely was. So thank you, Nancy, for that comment, and thank you to both of you. What a great way to start our fall. Thank you to Amanda Bullock and the Portland Book Festival and everyone at Literary Arts for partnering with us on this. We hope that you will either follow us on Crowdcast and come watch more virtual events this fall, or if you are in Madison, we do have one day of in-person events on October 23rd. So we will have a full day of festival events that day, and our first in-person event since March 13th or March 12th, 2020 is on Thursday. So if you're here in Madison, please come see Dantiel Moniz for her debut collection, Milk Blood Heat. Thank you all for coming tonight. We had 300 people on 5 continents and 30 different U.S. states. Truly special. So thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank you. Invite me back when we heal. I'd
Absolutely
love coming to Madison. I haven't been there in a long time, and I love
Great.
you all. Callie, gracias. Connor, thank you. Portland, thank you. And then we give you Maria Callas kisses. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, and my lap the whole time, behaving so well, is my Mexican hairless, and she's
Cute.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.